25 years old. He has seconds to decide. Continue with an overloaded computer or abort.
If we ever aborted a lunar descent, it would have been the most complicated maneuver we've done in human spaceflight.
Time is running out. Bales makes his choice.
I said, flight, we're go. I almost shouted it.
We're going, that alarm? Go! Roger. Real good. Roger.
The computer is hanging on by a thread. And now there's another issue.
All of the problems that have occurred now are causing us to land long.
They've overshot the landing zone. Boulders as big as houses are in the way. Searching for a safer spot, Neil Armstrong is running out of fuel.
We wanted to have a margin at the end when we landed. We didn't want to land empty. In all of the sims, always, we had something on the order of 3 minutes of fuel left.
3 minutes. Altitude still over 500 feet. The math doesn't look good.
I said, okay, all flight controllers, no more calls except for fuel remaining.
Okay, the only call out from now on will be yours.
Then Bob Carlton in the systems row makes a fuel call no one wants to hear.
Low level?
Low level. This means that now the gas gauge on board the spacecraft is virtually reading empty.
Boy, I clutched. The back room clutched. The whole control center clutched.
The next fuel call will be 60 seconds.
I started a stopwatch, and I sat there and watched that watch count down. And it come time to 60 seconds.
60 seconds.
Look at that altitude. We're never supposed to see this. The impossible has happened. We're not going to make it.
He calls off 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
I'm still counting. When he hits 0, it is now land or abort, one or the other.
Picking up some dust.
I thought, picking up dust? How can you be picking up dust? And then it dawned on me, we might make it.
About the time that he now calls off 15 seconds, we hear the crew going through the process of shutting down the engines.
Contact light. Okay, engine stop. We've had shut. Post control both autos. These engine command override off.
Suddenly, the engineers of Mission Control, the masters of preparation, find themselves completely unprepared for what is said next.
Listen, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
I'd never heard the words Tranquility Base before. In every simulation and every training, they continued to call themselves the Eagle even after they'd landed. Incredible name. I think, what an incredible name.
Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
And then the back room literally erupted. The people were pounding on the floor, cheering, applauding us. And then my control room started picking up the same buzz. And I said, okay, all you guys, settle down.
Okay, keep the chatter down in this room. Come on, let's keep the chatter down.
I said, guys, settle down, settle down. Keep your eye on the dadgum bird. This ain't over with. Keep your eye on it.
Outside the control center, the world celebrates. Inside, the mission goes on. Crew and spacecraft must be watched over, systems checked. Gene Kranz has another countdown to a decision. Is it safe to stay on the moon? It's just another moment in a busy, busy shift.
Flight controllers, about 45 seconds to T1, stay no stay. 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 Stay no stay.
The first moon landing was an experience shared by millions. Ironically, some of the few who missed it were the very people who made it happen.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
That instant, we missed. And this team I felt so emotionally attached to. that I just wished we could go back to that time and place and just do it one more time, only this time, really enjoy the moment rather than having to be so darn busy.
Everyone in Mission Control assumed that this would go down in history as their finest hour. They had no way of knowing that an even greater challenge lay just ahead, a challenge that would take them to the brink of disaster. November 1969. NASA has met their deadline, landing on the moon before the end of the decade. But Mission Control cannot rest on its laurels. The flights that follow will be just as challenging, just as dangerous.
Before every flight, our job was to train and simulate, to be ready for anything. Once we launched, our job changed. Then, it was all about problem solving.
The most critical time is launch, powered flight. With a crew riding on 6 million pounds of high explosives, controllers don't have much time to solve problems.
During powered flight, the mission decision process operated in around a 20-second time frame. Most people would think of 20 seconds as a blink of an eye. In Mission Control, it was a lifetime.
November 14, 1969, Apollo 12. Astronauts Pete Conrad, Dick Gordon, and Alan Bean are headed for the second moon landing. The need to make a fast decision is about to fall on controller John Aaron. He's in charge of electrical and environmental systems. His call sign, ECOM.
The thing that makes a good ECOM is a natural curiosity about how things work, even if you are not responsible for them.
2, 1. Ignition
Apollo 12 lifts off. It's Jerry Griffin's first launch as flight director.
And all of a sudden everything, all the data went away, and there was a big static in my headset.
What the hell was that?
I said, ECOM, what do you see?
I looked down at all my telemetry data, the readouts from the spacecraft, and they were nonsensical.
Just get in, let's go.
In the spacecraft, astronaut Alan Bean has no clue either.
Just lost the platform, gang. I don't know what happened.
Lights pop on. The alarm system comes on. More lights than I'd ever seen ever in the simulator. I mean, there was main bus A, main bus B.
I got 3 fuel cell lights, an AC bus light, a fuel cell disconnect, AC bus overload, 1 and 2, main bus A and B out.
It's an electrical failure. The command module has lost main power. Emergency batteries take over, but they'll only last 2 hours. Mission Control is facing a launch abort, jettison the spacecraft, and blow up the Saturn V. Now John Aaron's curiosity pays off. A year earlier, during a test, he had seen a strange pattern of data and had learned about an obscure switch inside the command module that could fix it.
I had seen that pattern before, and it had been 1 year since I had seen it. But it was like that pattern was written in my mind.
The Saturn V's engines keep burning, but the command module on top of the rocket is barely alive, powered only by emergency batteries. Everyone expects ECOM to abort. Then Aaron makes a different call.
I said, flight, tell them to take the SCE to AUX.
Flight comes out, SCE to off.
And I said, what?
Say again, SCE to off.
SCE to AUX.
I said, what's that?
It was some obscure switch, signal conditioning electronics auxiliary.
I turned to the Capcom and Jerry Carr, and I said,
SCE to off, Capcom.
and Carr said, what?
Mission Control comes back and says,
Try SCE to auxiliary, over. SCE to auxiliary. SCE to auxiliary. What the hell is that? Fuel cell SCE to auxiliary.
Turned out Al Bean knew where that switch was. It was back over his shoulder. He threw the switch and we got all of our data back and we could see what the problem was.
We got it back, flight. Looks good. Okay.
Later analysis reveals Apollo 12 had been hit by